Hello everybody, today we are going to discuss Everyone Sang by Siegefried Sasoon, and he is famously known as war poet, though there is nothing sort of war in this poem. He was an English poet and a soldier as well, and he wrote about the war horrors and the problems faced by the soldiers during wars. And this poem was composed after the First World War, that's in 1919. And as I said, there is nothing sort of war in this poem. It is about the end of war. He was always against wars and he was the lone protester of the war. And moreover, he said that it is actually the over patriotism of people that resulted in jingoism fueled war. And because of his lone protest against the war, he was finally admitted to a lunatic asylum, say a psychiatric hospital. There he befriended a person named Michael Owen, who was so good, quite influenced by him. And later on he composed some 3 books on his own experiences, which was published as Chesterton Trilogy. So here this poem is an expression of joy. This poem, yes, is an expression of joy at the end of the war. It expresses the feelings of the soldiers, the poet himself, that how people feel at the end of the war. So let's see how the idea has been conveyed here in this poem in a beautiful manner. This poem is just of 10 lines, 5 lines each in 2 stanzas just. So a very beautiful and rhythmic poem, musical poem. Let's see how the poet conveys this idea. This is a very, we can say, most popular poem of Sasoon and also widely anthologized poem. So let's see and know the reason that why it is so. So everyone suddenly burst out singing, and I was filled with such delight. So actually what happened when the war was over, everyone was extremely happy. So that's why everyone suddenly burst out singing. So there was like the horrors, the problems, the sufferings that the soldiers faced in the trenches. So it was really a freedom to them, that they, as if they got released from all those horrors and problems. So everyone suddenly burst out singing, and I was filled with such delight. I was so happy, so delighted, extremely filled with happiness and joy at the end of the war. As prisoned birds, now he's comparing his joy, he's comparing his delight with the birds, that how the birds feel when they are free. So as prisoned birds must find in freedom, winging wildly across the white orchards and dark green fields, on and out of sight. So the poet here compares his own delight, his own joy at the end of the war, how he felt. So that feeling has been compared here with the feelings of the birds, that when they are allowed to fly freely in the open sky, the feelings they have, the joy that they feel, it was the same kind of joy the soldiers felt at the end of the war, as if they had been released from all the burdens, all the bounds, all the confinements. It was such a kind of feeling as the birds when they fly high in the sky, just across the sky, across the fields and all. So how delighted they are, because the sky is for the birds, and when they are let fly, in the open sky, there is nothing comparable to that joy for the birds. So for the soldiers it was the same kind of joy when they were freed from that burden of the war, when they were out of those trenches. So it was really a boundless happiness for them. So that's why this comparison, as prisoned birds must find in freedom. So beautiful alliteration has been used. This poem has a beautiful rhyme. We can say that it is A, B, C, B, B. This rhyme pattern has been followed here in this poem. So very beautifully musically oriented and arranged poem this is, I can say. So just as the birds when they wing wildly, it means when they flutter and fly in the open sky across the white orchards. Orchards are garden. So just when they fly across the gardens, when they fly across the orchards, dark green fields, across the fields, out in the open sky, open atmosphere, on and out of sight, when they go on flying and they go out of sight. So yes, there is boundless joy in that, what nature has given to them. When they are free to enjoy that, there is nothing compared to that. It's a matchless feeling. So when the war was over, they also had that matchless feeling of joy. They had that boundless joy. So that expression we find mentioned in these lines. Everyone's voice was suddenly lifted. So again, here is an expression of overwhelming joy, that everyone's voice was suddenly lifted with that. When they were singing, that this ascension in the sound shows that overwhelming joy, that it knew no bounds at that time. They were all singing loudly with their open heart, and with a feeling of extreme joy. They were singing loudly and loudly, and beauty came like the setting sun. Yes, and beauty came like the setting sun. So why this comparison with the setting sun? The setting sun is the symbol of homeward return, that one is returning home. It's time to go back home. It's time to return home. So it is that feeling actually the poet wants to convey, that now the war is over. So now you can return home, you can go back to your home. So that's why this has been compared with the setting sun, that the beauty. So as the setting sun, the sign of setting sun, the symbol of setting sun is the signal that now your time is over, the work is over, that you must go back to your home and have some rest and joy with your family. So these feelings we find expressed here in this poem. And the poet says the beauty came like. So how it is beautiful, it makes one happy. In the same way, here in these lines, the poet expresses the same idea. He says that when the war was over and the soldiers got a signal that now yes, they can return home, or it was a sign to them that they can now be home. So this was really extremely joyful to those soldiers. My heart was shaken with tears, and horror drifted away. Now this was actually the tears of happiness. My heart was shaken with tears, that he was overjoyed and he was overpowered by emotion, overpowered by happiness. The tears came flowing down from his eyes. So my heart was shaken with tears, and horror drifted away. The horror caused by the war, that in the war we see our own comrades and colleagues being killed and lying and suffering and all injured and just screaming and wailing. So all that horror, the bloodshed and all, so all that horror now drifted away, all that horror now passed away. Now there was no need to be horrified. Now the war was over, it was the time of armistice. So there would be no bloodshed and there would be no wreaking horror. So it was a peacetime now. So that horror was now gone. Oh, but everyone was a bird. Oh, but everyone was a bird. Yes, it was a feeling like a bird. This how the birds are full of happiness. So now the soldiers were just like the birds, that the birds as they flutter and fly in the sky. So they were all like birds now, flying with happiness in the open sky. Their feelings were high, soaring high, their emotions were high. So it was like the birds itself. So this comparison here with birds, and the song was wordless. And to express that emotion, to express this joy, one doesn't need any word. Yes, just as the birds don't have words, but their joy can be seen in their flight, in their free flight. In the same way, the soldiers' song doesn't need any word. That feeling could be conveyed just through their expressions and the sound itself. So it was a wordless song. There was no need of any word to convey that happiness. That expression was enough, it was sufficient. The sound was enough and it was sufficient. They were all so happy, very joyful and delightful. The singing will never be done. So yes, that singing will now never be over. That means the joy at the end of the war, the joy at that armistice, that now peace must remain. So that singing will never be done, that joy will never be done, it will never be over, it will never finish, it will never die. People are so happy at the end of the war that they would go on singing. The singing will go on, this expression of joy and delight will go on and on and on. So this is how Sasoon, in a very beautiful manner, in a very rhythmical manner, in a very musical manner, has conveyed his expression of joy at armistice, at the end of the war, and how that yes, war is all futile. That idea too has been conveyed, that war brings only horror and death. It is only peace that prevails, that spread the feeling of joy all over. So that's what he is trying to convey here through this poem. So I hope it's very much clear to you. So I'll come back with some more poems. So till then, keep watching, stay tuned, stay connected. So bye bye.